I'm just wondering. And I can't remember what I was wondering. So I'll start with something else. It was really important, though. Oh, yes. The question today, and I want you to think about it, because I read this and I went, oh my gosh, it kind of pulled me in a new place. And the question asked, are you driven or are you being drawn? Are you driven in life or are you being drawn by what you love? Because they're very different. I've heard it that the universe has planted, God has planted, inside each and every one of us. Everyone, not some, everyone. Unique, special, sometimes a little strange. Jewels that are uniquely ours. They are our truth, our purpose, our uniqueness, our gifts. But then God steps back. Oh, no, I don't think God does that, but God steps back and waits to see if we can find them. You know, Joseph Campbell, we have a quote out there. Joseph Campbell, that beautiful author, writer, theologian, all sorts of stuff, anthropologist, whatever, mythologist, whatever. Anyway, he wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is being yourself." He also wrote, "The hero's journey," because it takes a lot of courage, a lot of strength, a lot of availability, a lot of willingness to show up and live that life. Because when you dig deep, it's going to be a joyous experience, a painful experience, sometimes a boring experience, and sometimes a tense experience. But to do that is what we're meant to do. That's when we're drawn by the jewels, the light, the colors within us to be who we really are. Often, we're driven because we're living what someone else told us we should be. We're driven because someone said, "You're not worthy." And instead of looking inside to find all the worthiness we are, we start being what we think we should be. It's interesting, this paradox of being human. We want to be seen, but then we hide ourselves because of, what's a four-letter word? I say a nice one. Four-letter word. Fear. Ernest Holmes writes so much about, the disease of fear. It's a contagious energy. He calls it a mental germ that we can give to people. People can catch it from us. The fear that limits our life and keeps us stuck. And, Rumi said, why do you stay in prison when the door is wide open? Because we're afraid of what we're going to find. My daughter sends me quotes and passages and different things on the people that she loves, the people that inspire her. And something that she sent me recently was from Elizabeth Gilbert. And Elizabeth Gilbert wrote the book, Big Magic. And Big Magic is about creative living. Big living, the creative living beyond fear. So here's the passage she sent to me, and I think it's worth just telling it like a story. Because do you know Elizabeth Gilbert? She wrote Eat, Pray, Love and Big Magic, and she's had a life. And she knows how to write, and she knows how to go deep and find the truth of her being. Okay, so the courage to be seen, I'll call it what the title is today. There comes a quiet moment in every person's life when we realize that hiding has become more exhausting than being known. For years, many of us have become experts at presenting only the polished version of ourselves. Okay, I didn't see any hands raised, but I know they're there. We learn to smile when we're uncertain, to appear strong when we're weary, to edit our stories, our life, our stories, until they're acceptable, admirable, and safe. We become curators of an image instead of caretakers of our soul. The soul has very little interest in image. The soul longs for truth and authenticity. The remarkable thing is, we don't become lovable by becoming flawless, rather by becoming real. We discover that the cracks we work so hard to conceal are the very places where our compassion enters. The stories we thought disqualified us become the bridges that allow someone else to feel less alone. To be seen is not to stand on a stage and demand applause. It is something far more sacred. It is the willingness to stand in the light of your own life without apology. To say, this is who I am today, still growing, still learning, still beautifully unfinished. What freedom there is in no longer carrying the burden of perfection. Perhaps courage has never been about becoming fearless. Perhaps courage is simply deciding what authentically matters more to you. So our goal today, polishing ourselves is fine. That's beautiful. It's fun. We love it. Making everything pretty. We love to make life beautiful and wonderful. But that's not all that we're here for. To find the jewels within us, we must have a dedicated practice to work past the fear, to get down to that place where we know there's something more. You know, fear comes from when we think we're living alone, when we're all by ourselves. Courage comes from knowing we are co-creators with something way larger than ourselves. We're always surrounded by this field of infinite possibility and creativity. We're the InSpirit Center because we know that inspiration is right within us when we open to it. Now, we just maybe make a space for it and then it hits us and we have to do the work to manifest and let it happen. But we have to have that dedicated practice to move past the fear. When we can move past the fear. And Elizabeth Gilbert also says, treat fear like a passenger on a road trip. Let it come along, but never let it touch the steering wheel, choose the radio station, or make decisions. Fear is a real part of life. And we feel fear when we're growing and changing and becoming, and that's part of life. But we need to put it in its place. We need to make sure it's not running our life and we can be doing something different. Richard Rohr, I love this line. It's short, but it's so potent, I think. God comes to us disguised as our life. When we don't recognize the divinity within us, if we don't recognize the goodness in us, then we're blocked, we're limited, we're limiting ourselves. You can't make an omelet without breaking the eggs. You know, we've got to break the things in us that we know aren't working. It was so cute. We've been assigned certain days for 3 weeks now that we take care of our little granddaughter, Naya. Well, she's about this big now, so she's not really little. What a spitfire. She's so adorable. So it was the end of the day, her day, and she'd come home from her little camp she's going to. And we said, Kirk brought it up first. He said, let's talk about what we're thankful for. And I said something, and Kirk said something, and then Naya said, we said, what are you thankful for? And she goes, I'm thankful for mirrors. And it's like, okay, why are you thankful for mirrors? It lets me know right where I am. Is that a good answer? Because Ernest Holmes would love that. Because we know, he always says, life is a mirror and reflects back to us what we think into it. And we can't scratch out the image in the mirror. We can't scratch it out, but we can put a different image in front of it. And that's where we get the saying, change your thinking, change your life. As we start thinking better of ourselves and our life, things start getting better. It was interesting, we had a big celebration of life here yesterday. It wasn't for someone in our congregation, but I'd done the daughter-in-law's celebration of life for her mother years ago. I didn't remember it, but I did it, and she remembered, and her mother-in-law passed. Well, this woman, talk about courage. She was an amazing woman. She was fearless, but along with her fearlessness, she was so serving and helpful and wonderful. And I'm listening to her life and her adventures, all this, and she had the best kids and grandkids, families, and people traveled from all over, from Hawaii, from the East Coast, all over to be there because she'd made such a difference in their life. And I loved being there, but I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not courageous. And so I started thinking of how I was different than her, and it wasn't good. And then I went, okay, I can't scratch that out, but I got, look what, and I had to fill myself back up, remembering my own jewels and what I've done in my life, that a little different of her courageousness, hitchhiking across the country when she was 17, going to Europe for her daughter's graduation. She took her to Europe, and going down to the French topless beach and going, well, when in France, and the daughter said she was so embarrassed. It's like, oh, Mom, that's not me. But, just a different life, and always being there for her kids and family. But we need to find out what our own courage, our own blessing is, why we're here. That's why when we discover the jewels that we are, we don't have to live someone else's life. We can appreciate who they are and who we are in that process, how blessed we are. We don't have to become worthy. We're already worthy. What we need, though, is a flexible imagination to unlimit ourselves, untether ourselves from the old beliefs, the old unworthiness, the old problems, the old mistakes we've made. We need to have a flexible imagination and know something more. What else is there that's reminding us of not only who we are, but who we're meant to be? There's more in each of us. There's more jewels, more to be discovered, more to be revealed. But as I said, we must be able to be open to that, to be able to have a practice, a spiritual practice, to let go of the fear or just move it into the passenger seat, that we become available to the creativity that's there. I heard when I was listening to Elizabeth Gilbert, I listened to a little bit of her after Deanna sent me that, and she said, there's an epidemic of loneliness in the world right now. Well, we've heard that. We know that community helps that. But she said, I believe that loneliness comes when we have untethered ourselves from our creativity. She said, there was a little read on that creativity can heal anxiety. Anxiety blocks creativity. But when we're anxious or worried, whatever creative thing we can do, it can be little. It can go out. I love to dig in plants or replant a plant or do something. And that can be the process of life. It doesn't have to painting a mural or going out and building something big, but doing something that brings you excitement and joy, that reconnects you with who you are meant to be, who you're meant to be. So I don't know what, this is a beautiful he was a famous French poet and author. And he said, if you ask me what I came to this world to do, I, an artist, will answer you. I am here to live out loud. And I thought about that. What does it mean to live out loud? It's not to be afraid of who you are, your goodness, your joy, your gifts, and your limitations. If we didn't have limitations, we wouldn't have room for other people in our life. It's not about being perfect. It's about being who you came to be and making space for others too. So being that, I thought that was perfect. I have some questions I'd like to pose to you, some thoughts I have about being available and removing the blocks we have to that inspiration, that life energy. Because once we're plugged into that, we have the courage to be seen. We have the courage to show up. A quote I've used since, I think, my first service 27 years ago is by the anthropologist Angeles Arian. And she says, show up, pay attention, tell the truth, and do not be attached to the outcome. That's living out loud. We have to show up first. We have to pay attention to what's going on. We have to tell the truth and not be attached to the outcome. We have to be willing to get into the how many of you have ever had a creative idea go in your head and you go, oh my God, that's such a good idea, but then you don't have the discipline to do it and somebody else does it first? I mean, is there anybody here that doesn't have it? Kirk, you put your hand up really high because you talk about that all the time. Yeah, you have a creative idea, and then you just, I'll put it back. I'll just put it on the side for a while. And then you miss the opportunity because good ideas are living energy. They're living energy. That inspiration that comes through us is alive. But if we don't take care of it, if we don't do something about it, it will move to something or someone else who might be more available. So here are the questions. Here are the questions for you. And Dave mentioned this so perfectly. It was beautiful. What mask are you hiding behind? You know, there's a mask that needs to be dropped for all of us. We put on a mask so we don't show our real self. So people can't see who we really are, because if they see who we really are, they might leave. They might not like us. But what mask do you know has really been uncomfortable, where you pretend to be something you're not? Because that mask covers up those shininess of the jewels that are there to be discovered. Think of what mask you want to let go of. What in you is tired of being judged and wants to be welcomed, mostly by you? What aspect of yourself are you pushing away because it's not something that brings out happiness or joy in you? And you push it away, and it wants to be loved by you, to be accepted by you, to be understood. Who has loved you the very best by simply seeing who you are? You feel really seen in the world. It was interesting. I was sitting next to the son of the woman who passed. We were talking. I could tell he was somebody who could really look at you and you could be seen. And it was so beautiful. You can feel when somebody's really looking at you and not thinking about what they're going to say next or what's going on inside of them. And who could you truly see this week? Think about that. Before our healing wall, I'll just say a little bit of advice that was given to a Native American, a young Native American, at the time of his initiation. Because right now is a time, really every moment is a time for initiation, to find more of the jewels that are waiting to be discovered. As you go the way of life, you will see a great chasm. Jump. It's not as far as you think. And that's the courage. I want you to feel totally seen. So I'm going to ask you to stand for the reading. Feel your feet firmly planted on the ground so you feel secure, empowered, taken care of, and then open and available, like you have roots and wings so we can fly, but we are grounded in truth and love, faith and light. And we're going to read this. I will read it. You will answer. We'll read the last 2 lines together. So let's do this, and we'll do it slowly so we really embody it and feel it. We release the need to appear perfect. We choose to be authentic. We release the fear of being truly seen. We trust that love welcomes us as we are. Our humanity is not separate from spirit. It is the place where spirit shines most brightly. We walk into this week with courage. We walk with our true selves. And together. And being fully ourselves, we reveal the presence of love in the world. And just for me right now, would you just please say, I stand in faith. I stand in faith. I stand in love. I stand in love. I stand in prayer. I stand in prayer. And we stand together. And we stand together. And just give the little hand next to you a little hug before we sit down. Beautiful.